Hello everyone, welcome back to X-Plane 11. My name is jfavignano, and today we're going to continue with our training in flight school inside of X-Plane 11, and it's going to be tail dragger takeoff. Flying a tail dragger is different. It requires a very different technique than a tricycle gear airplane like the Cessna 172 we did last time. The most popular tail draggers are used for landing on rugged or unpaved runways or even in fields. Let's do it. Welcome to your first tail dragger takeoff. This is the Stinson L5. At low speeds in a tail dragger, you'll need to pull back on the joystick slightly to keep the nose up and the tail wheel firmly on the ground. Otherwise, you'll lose the ability to steer. That's true. We'll have to pull that in our lap on takeoff. Eventually, your tail will naturally rise and the aircraft's body will be parallel to the ground. At that point, you'll be able to move the joystick back to neutral and simply steer like usual. As you're steering down the runway, watch your airspeed indicator and start pulling back when you hit 50 miles per hour. Remember last time we used knots, and the Stinson is an old airplane. It uses the old system, so we're going to be using miles per hour today, and 50 is going to be about right there. So, okay, good. Go ahead and turn off the brakes. I'm going to press both of my brakes in there and release the parking brake. And they said advance it to 50%, so let's do that. As you roll, you'll need to, okay, adding full power. Wait for the airplane's tail to naturally rise, and once it does, we can return it to natural. Oh, okay. There we go. We're in the air that fast. I have never flown this Stinson in this. Aim to maintain 65 miles per hour during the climb. Okay, well, we'll try that. Good God. I'm going to pull power back then. This thing is so overpowered. 65 in the climb. I'm going to trim it back a little bit more. Why so? This airplane is so overpowered. I'm sorry, but that's a little ridiculous. I mean, look at this. We can't even hit six. I have to pull the power back, I guess. Way to go. You're ready to try some real bush flying. I don't know about that. Well done. I wouldn't say that was well done, but I'm not going to do it again. That wasn't the best. Takeoff performance was 94%. Airspeed, 86%. Takeoff distance, 100%, 90, and 100. Okay, good. And that training. On to the next one. I didn't care for that one, to be honest, at all. Landing in the Cessna 172. Landing an airplane can be incredibly daunting. Take it one step at a time, though, and you can learn to pilot the Cessna 172 safely down to the ground in no time. Keep in mind, different flight schools are going to have you do things differently. And I'm going to have to try to break my habits to do what X-Plane 11 wants me to. We're on final approach to SeaTac, Kilo Sierra Echo Alpha. Runway 16 left, preparing to land our Cessna 172. Okay, they're just going to throw us on in there. You got it, brother. As we approach, you'll want to keep the plane's nose pointed down just a bit so the runway is above the cockpit glare shield. Go ahead and try it. Yeah, I know. I know how to approach an airport. Okay. That's pretty much what you want to do. We're pretty high up here, though. I mean, look at the PAPI lights. Okay, they're going to let us fly. I'm just going to go ahead and reduce our power because I'm not going to be... Let's reduce the throttle about 30%. We would always go to about 1,500 RPM. And lower a notch of flaps, you can press 2. No, you would not. We're not... Well, yeah, we can go with the first notch flaps here. It'll slow us down a bit as we descend. You're coming in too fast. Reduce the power a bit. We're at idle, bro. From here on out, we just need to keep the plane lined up with the runway as we slowly descend. That is true. Now, keep in mind, our altitude is a bit higher than it should be. Lower the nose and reduce the throttle to increase our rate of descent. I understand that. You guys started us out way too high here. Way too high. So, in this airplane, yeah, shut up. In this airplane, what you want to do is you want to pitch for airspeed and power for altitude. So we want 70 knots on final, and we're going to pitch for 70 knots and hold that 70 knots just based off of our pitch alone. And then as we descend, you know, we start getting on that glide slope, we're going to add power in our altitude. Yeah, I know, because the game put you way too high. There's no reason for that. We're going to do an advanced maneuver called a slip here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add right rudder, and as I add that right rudder, we're going to go left on the aileron to keep us, you know, here and there, to keep us on that center line. But what it does is allows us to get a much healthier vertical speed descent, as you can see there, but maintaining that 70 knots in the process. We're getting close. Yeah, I know we're getting close, dude. And they tell you to not slip an airplane with flaps in, so not our fault that they screwed us over. All right, put in our next setting of flap. It's going to make the airplane want to pitch up. That's natural because we're adding lift when we put our flaps down. What are flaps, you say? These are these things that are coming off the wings. Those are your flaps. All right, we're on the glide slope now, looking good. Let's get our power back in, and we want to pitch for that 70 knots here. There we go. Get that 70 knots. Use this for pitch. All right, and we're gonna go final notch of flaps. We're gonna get that extra little lift. And I'm pushing forward on the stick there when I do that, or the yoke. Okay. Yeah, they're flying. They really screw you up. I feel bad for some of these guys that are brand new to this. Yeah, I know how to land the plane. We want to round up the flare here, so we'll go idle over the piano keys and hold that nose up, hold it up, and we are down. You know, we'll apply brakes to stop the airplane. They really do screw you on that. That's kind of unfortunate. I feel bad for people that are new to flying. You know, they should not give you that much altitude. So my advice in this one, oh, they want us to stop the airplane. Okay. My advice in that one is to start descending soon as possible. Way to go. Yeah, way to go. Thank you. Landing performance was a 96%. What do we got? Off-road ratio of 100%. The max centerline deviation, 97. Landing distance of 88%. We could have been earlier than that. I was talking. And in that training there. All right, we'll do one more, and then we'll be done with the general aviation. So we have a pretty good score all the way across the board, except for the takeoff. I don't know what that was all about, the whole 74 knots deal. You know, the problem is they're asking you to do a certain, you know, speed on your climb, and the airplane's flight model didn't seem like it really wanted to do that. It wants to do what it should, around 80 knots or so. So traffic pattern. Real pilots fly in a very specific way during takeoff and landing. In this tutorial, you'll learn to take off, fly a rectangular circuit, and land back on the runway just like you would in the real world. Yes. Looks like this is at Juneau, Alaska. That's pretty awesome. We're ready to fly our first traffic pattern. Yes, we are. We're just going to take off, circle around parallel to the runway, then turn back toward the runway to land right back here. That's a difficult sentence. I don't know why. Follow the green checkpoint markers for a perfect pattern. You got it. Alrighty. We already know how to take off, so everything's good to go. I assume our pitch trim is set for takeoff, which it should be. It wasn't. There's takeoff right there. And we've got beacon, landing, taxi, labs, all that good stuff on. All right, fantastic. Alrighty. I think we're ready to go. What do you say? Let's add a little bit up. A little bit. There we go, right there. All right. Gonna add that full power in. And remember, use that right rudder as we add that power. Where that engine is going to throw it to the left, and we're going to wait for that 55 knots before we rotate. There's 55 right there. On up we go. Nice and smooth. And they want us to climb out at 74 knots, so that's what we're going to do for them. Just for them, we'll do 74 knots instead of 80 for whatever reason. I don't know. It's a pretty steep climb out. 74. That's okay. And I assume they didn't tell us what altitude to go to or anything, so they just want us to go to this big green arrow, it looks like. Go to the big green arrow. You got it. That's what we're going to do. That is what we're going to do. It'll take us a while to get up there. Probably like 1,500 feet or so. Still looking good. Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful day in Juneau, Alaska. Oh, what'd they just say there? Damn it, I missed it. Well, that's really bad on X-Plane for throwing that at you like that. I'm going to bring the nose down. I don't know what the hell they were saying there. We're going to go for 1,500 feet just because I missed that. They should not have it pop up like that and then it disappear. All right, we'll start our crosswind now. So what we just did was our upwind. I'm going to go ahead and reduce our power here. We're going to be 1,500 feet. I'm going to do 2,200 RPM. They're not telling me anything else. We're going to turn this way, so we're going to be on our crosswind. We just did our upwind. Now we're going to be on a crosswind. We're a bit high. Oh, they went 1,100 feet. Yeah, well, you shouldn't say that for like 1 second and then disappear. That's not really smart at all, to be honest. Back down to 1,100. They're probably going to dock the hell out of us on that one. All right. And now we turn for our downwind leg. Keep in mind, with airplanes, you're always taking off and landing into the wind. So right now it would be downwind to the runway, if that makes any sense. I'm gonna let this thing come back down to 1,100 feet. Oh, we can see that green arrow being reflected out there in the water. All right, 1,100 they want, 1,100 they get. They really shouldn't throw that at you for a second, then make it disappear for new pilots. That would be a little annoying. We've entered the downwind phase of the pattern. I'm going to take the controls for a moment. Okay, yep, great. You can keep yourself oriented during the pattern by looking over your shoulder at the runway. Yes, I know. That is true. There's the runway over there. Remember that you can recenter your view by pressing Shift 9. Good to know. For new pilots, okay, controls are yours again. I have the controls. Although you did not put us back at 1,100 feet, you just kept us at 1,000 the whole time. Looking good, about 2,100 there. I'm gonna add a little more power, so we're at 2,200 RPM. There we go. Getting closer to that 1,100 and keeping an eye on here. So what we always do is go at the threshold of the runway when our wings are level right here or parallel with the threshold of the runway. What we'll do is we'll slow down to 1,500 RPM and begin our descent at 80 knots. And what it's going to do is once we get 45 from there, will be 10-degree notch of flaps. That's how I would do it in the real world, but we'll see what it tells us here in the sim. Still at 1,100 feet. Pretty soon we'll turn in for the base phase of the traffic pattern, follow quickly by our final approach. Yes, we will. So right there, see, I would have already reduced, and we're going to do it. You descend, yeah, begin descending now. What I'm going to do is going to go 1,500 RPM, and I'm going to shoot for 80 knots is what we're going to shoot for here. We're going to go 10-degree flap because they're not going to tell us how to properly do this approach. But I'm going to tell you. I am. And I assume they want you to fly way out here, which is just ridiculous. I mean, pretty ridiculous how far out you need to go here. And the reason why you don't go this far away from the airport is because of an engine out failure. Okay, they're gonna screw you guys up. We're just gonna go ahead and bring our flaps back up. This is an improper pattern, but we're gonna do it their way. We're gonna do it their way. But you would not want to go this far away because if you had a problem with the airplane, you know, you would be in trouble. Yeah, we may want to start putting flaps. Yeah, tell them. No shit. We know. You don't say. All right, shooting for that 80 knots here on our descent at 1,500 RPM. That's what we want it to be at. I really don't like these green markers. They're a little off. And look how low we're going to be for this approach. This is absolutely incorrect. I guess they just want you to maintain 1,100 feet until like they're going to just drop us back in there again. I assume that's what's going to happen here. Yep. Let's line up for the runway for our final approach. Yep. Start our turn on final. So our first one was the upwind. We did a crosswind, a downwind. Now we're on base. And now we're turning to final. Final for final approach, which they tell you to turn way too early for. Imagine that. So due to the terrain here, we're gonna fly over this a little bit here before we add 20 degree of flap in, because my lord, they're gonna get you killed on this approach. And these are the VASI lights here. So we want red over white. White on white means we're too high. Red on red means you're dead. It means you're too low. Add that. Okay, you dumb thing. Yeah, they screw you up on these patterns. It's pretty unfortunate. All right, let's go ahead and pitch for 70 knots here, because they just have you way too high. And to be honest, you know, the approach to runway 8 at Juneau is not good for beginners. Like, they could have given you something a little easier. All right, let that nose drop down. Final setting of flaps. And look how high we are on this approach, just because they want you to fly these green markers. All right, I'm gonna get back here on the glide slope real quick. There's a glide slope right there. See how we have that red over white now on the VASI lights? That's exactly what we want to land. So our touchdown markers are those solid white squares, and that's where we want the mains to touch down at. So what we'll do is we'll go idle over the piano keys, and we'll look at the end of the runway here as we start our round out to flare and hold that nose up about right there. And we are down. Now keep holding it up and fly the nose down. One of the biggest things that most sim pilots do incorrect is after they touch down, they don't fly the nose wheel down to the ground. They just let it slam on down there, and you would not want to do that. That would be bad. I'm going to come to a complete stop because they didn't tell us that's what they want, but I'm assuming that's what they want. Yeah, there it is. Nicely done. Well, you know, besides what they had us do there, we didn't do too bad. They kind of screwed us many times. Takeoff airspeed was good, kind of. Yeah, pretty dumb because it's like you're really trying to fly outside of the limits of this airplane is what it feels like to me. But not bad. 93%. We'll end training there, and next time we'll continue on. We're going to be moving into, what is this? Navigation's next. Yes, we'll be moving into navigation. So doing VOR navigation and flying an ILS approach as well. That'll do it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.